Welcome back to the CannMed Coffee Talk Lounge. I am your host, Ben Amaral, host of the CannMed Coffee Talk podcast, and I am here with Dedi Meiri.
Hi.
Dedi, good to see you.
Thanks, good to be here.
And nice to be here in person, no? Is this your first conference back since the pandemic?
No, it's my third in the last 3 months, but it's for sure the first cannabis conference and meeting all the friends here. Literally, it's something that I missed, and it's amazing feeling face to face.
Yeah, and so when you come to events like this, you know, what are you trying to get out of it? Is it just catching up with colleagues, or trying to see what the latest innovations are? What's the biggest takeaway for you?
I think it's all together. First of all, it's a good opportunity to sit and listen and learn and hear new things. Second is the communication between colleagues and people, and we learned in the last 2 years that it's far from being the same with Zooms or far away. Here you finish the talk, you asking questions, and then you getting out, you have another half an hour chat about this and that small talks, and this is building the relationship, this is building collaboration, and it's extremely important.
Absolutely. And you talked about the presentations. Are there any in particular at this year's CannMed that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, there are a few that I'm a big fan of them, the regular one, but also Stacy Gruber, which I really big fan of her work, and I think she's going to present a few new things. But don't understand me wrong, mainly the new science. There is a lot of talks in these types of conference which giving big view about the endocannabinoid system. That this is enough for me already.
Yeah.
Like, I know the details, and some of them I can repeat the talk by myself. But the new people, the people that really showing new science and unpublished data, and that is extremely interesting for me.
Yeah, and you mentioned Stacy Gruber, and I know that there are others here at CannMed that are presenting more clinical trials, which I know is sort of the gold standard in terms of data when looking at medical cannabis. So
yes, in the last, I would say, 3 years, there is a lot of studying matured to be a real clinical trial, and not the kind of clinical trials that we were speaking a few years ago, that is more observative trials. We gave cannabis, we see that this effect and that effect. These are real clinical trials, double-blind placebo. We start that also the pharma, or I will say the physician will admire. I think it's extremely important. It's opened the gate to new population and new types of patients that we're willing to use and try when we cross this barrier.
Yeah.
And I think it's extremely important and interesting.
Absolutely. Okay, so your presentation is titled "The Challenges in Bridging the Gap Between Traditional and Modern Medicine in the Medicinal Cannabis Arena." It's a lot to unpack there, but first, could you describe the difference between traditional and modern medicine? Like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so that's exactly what we just said about the clinical trial. There is a difference between using a herb and saying, that the Chinese believe that it's good for that and that, and this is traditional. Traditional is, drinking a babunag and say that it's good for stomach aches, or taking a chinicea or other ginseng and say that this is good for that and that. Modern medicine, it's proven facts, okay? Like you're doing clinical trials, you know what is the molecules, you know what the mechanism of action, why it's doing that, what are the side effects, what are the benefits, and what are you losing. It's always, kind of a balance. Mm-hmm. And this is what we call modern, okay? In the last 100 years, most of the, I will call modern or pharma, was single molecules to single target. Mm-hmm. And plants are never single molecule, single target. It's more complicated. And I think the pharma and the science and physician was afraid about this complexity of molecules. What's happened in the last 20 years, we called it polypharmacology, when more than one compound showing an effect, combination. And what's happened in the last 20 years is computer arrived and science today to look on network of few thousand proteins, molecules, people doing something. It's something that look to us already kind of trivial, right? Networking of, we use it for everything. Also in medicine, what looks very complicated to look on 3 molecules, what they are doing. Today it's not an Excel file, right? 3 molecules. This is not a big bioinformatics. So this is a huge change. So look on complicated action, what we called in the cannabis entourage effect. But what the meaning of that? This is polypharmacology. Few molecules are doing a complicated effect. Today with the ability, the science ability, analytical ability, and computer bioinformatics, it's not a border anymore. We can cross it easily. And this is what I think, bridging the modern medicine with the traditional one.
Right, so it's using modern tools to really be able to find the benefits or the values that sort of the traditional medicines were using, where it was more kind of herbal based, right, and less single compound.
Exactly. Think about the traditional physician 4,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago. You come with inflammation, he wouldn't give you a pill with one compound, right?
Yep.
He will give you a leaf with a root, with another flower, combine them together and give him. He would do what I call polypharmacology. Will take actually few compounds from here, few compounds from here, few compounds from here. He didn't really take them, but he combining them together and give you something complicated. Maybe a lot of that's placebo, but a lot of that it's knowledge that accumulate. He combined this and this, and the patient die. Okay, this is not good, until he found what is helping, right? This is thousands of years that accumulating data that in the last 100 years we put them aside. Okay, this is too complicated. Let's take the simplest one. But there are many diseases, neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer, ALS, cancer diseases, other diseases that we are hitting our head to the wall for many years. Doesn't matter how much billions of dollars we're pouring on that. And we didn't find the compound, the single compound that's doing that.
Right.
And I believe that the next generation of medicines will come from complicated medicines. Cannabis has opened the gate for that in an amazing way. It's a complicated plant with hundreds of molecules that's working in a synergism or with a entourage effect, with different receptors hitting different receptors, and it's just opened the window and the gate to understand that medicinal plants are like that, and today we have the tools to deal with it.
Yeah.
So cannabis brought money and the concept to build labs like my own at the Technion, but other labs that have the ability today to take a plant, to look, doing what we call metabolomics, to look on all the active compounds, to test them on different diseases, to analyze the compounds, to understand the mechanism of action. Exactly what we did with cannabis, we can do with other plants. There is a lot to do still with cannabis, but I think it's bigger than cannabis. It's open a window and a gate to bridge the traditional medicine with the...
Yeah. So are you saying there could be some opportunity to kind of look at, more established medicinal plants that maybe we have gotten some of those single molecule compounds that have been effective? Like, let's go back and look at, are there other compounds in here that we could have been missing or that could have been having some kind of synergistic effect?
Yes, that's what I'm doing for my, this is what I'm doing back home.
Yeah.
So my lab is not working just on cannabis. I have 3 PhD students that working on algae and other plants that we think are important medicinal plants that were too complicated. Now we can break it down and understand why it's working and so on. So cannabis is still very important. You know, it's hitting the endocannabinoid system, that it's all over our body, and there is a lot to do, and it's a very unique, special plant. But for sure there are many other plants that we can benefit from the techniques and the knowledge that we learned from cannabis to other plants.
Interesting. Now, one of the plants that's gotten a lot of attention lately is psychoactive mushrooms, psilocybe or other psilocybin-producing mushrooms. Are you investigating that at all?
Yeah, sure. Like part of my lab and my company is doing that. It's the same idea for me, you know. First of all, 7 years ago, people said cannabis, THC, and CBD, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing as you said, you know, psychedelic mushrooms or magic mushrooms, psilocybin mushrooms. What do you mean? Psilocybin mushrooms, like to say THC cannabis. It's
right.
One molecule. So there are, in my lab only, I have 135 different types of psilocybin mushrooms, 11 different families of mushrooms. Every one of them contain different combination of active compounds. Psilocybin is one of them, psilocybin, but we can recognize more than 70 molecules from this family already.
Wow.
The combination is doing totally different effects. They're hitting specific receptors, like the cannabis is hitting the endocannabinoid system. They are hitting the serotonergic system, you know, 4-HT, 5-HT, and all the family, and so on and so on. So it's the same idea as cannabis, exactly. We have a good idea that it's very powerfully work on our body, right? Mm-hmm. If you're taking 2 grams and you think you're a dolphin, it's probably powerful, right? And I understand where these receptors are in our body, so which diseases I can aim, and so on and so on. So we are very strong on that as well.
Excellent. All right. Well, Dedi, thanks again for taking the time to be with us here in the Coffee Talk Lounge. Looking forward to your presentation later in the event. And thank you to our sponsor, Medicine, Women, Health, and the Hemp Coffee Exchange for sponsoring the CannMed Coffee Talk Lounge.